Good evening. Welcome to the Finance Committee meeting of September 18th, 2025. This is our first meeting after our summer break. I welcome everybody back, and I hope you all had a wonderful summer. As chair of this committee, I recognize we have a quorum, and I call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is it's my pleasure to introduce our two new members to the committee, Victoria Pitney and Kelly Barner. Welcome. On behalf of the older members of the committee, we welcome you and look forward to working with you over the course of many years. So I will start by allowing you to have some time to introduce yourselves. So I'll start on my left, Victoria.
Sure.
Please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Victoria Pitney. I've been a Shrewsbury resident for about 25 years, recently moved back to town, so I'm excited to get involved in the community. I am a scientist at AbbVie Bioresearch Center doing drug development research as my full-time job. I also enjoy coaching softball locally in town, so those are the places you can find me when I'm not here.
Thank you. Welcome, Victoria.
Thank you.
Kelly.
Thank you. My name is Kelly Barner, Shrewsbury, born and raised, SHS class of 1996. I have owned my own company for just about 15 years now, focused in procurement and supply chain. Prior to that, I was part of the parent company that owns Stop and Shop, so certainly ties to some local businesses there. I have kids in the school system. And in addition to that, I'm actually off of 5 years of being part of the Historic District Commission. So looking forward to taking this next step into participating in public government.
Thank you. Welcome, Kelly and Victoria. Okay, the next item on our agenda is reorganization of the committee. As I have communicated to many of you in private, I do not plan to continue as chair. And I want to thank you all for the confidence you've had in me for 3 years. It's been quite a great journey. And those of you who are Monty Python fans will recognize the quote, "I'm not dead yet." So I'm still part of the committee, and I will be here, and I look forward to serving the new office bearers once we elect them. So the process that we will follow, Victoria and Kelly, you may not be aware, we had a nomination committee comprising of Jim Flynn and Milind Kanitkar, who who came up with a bunch of recommendations that they will share today for our new committee. Once Jim shares that with me, I will, as the last act as chair, will conduct the election for the vote for the new chair. Once we do that, the new chair will occupy this seat, and the new chair will proceed with the other two positions. So there are three positions: chair, vice chair, and clerk. So Jim, what is your and Milind's recommendation?
Thank you, Vikram, first of all, for everything you've done for the past 3 years. So as requested back in our June meeting, Milind and I, as a subcommittee, after speaking to both old and new members, had the following considerations for nominations. The chair would be Jean Budenhagen, vice chair, myself, Jim Flynn, and as clerk, Milind Kandikar.
Okay, thank you. If there are no comments, we shall proceed with the election for chair. So may I get a nomination for Mr. Jean Budenhagen?
Second.
Moved.
So moved second.
I nominate.
Nominate
I'll second it.
and second. Are there any other members who would like to provide a nomination for the position of chair? If not, we will proceed to a vote. Since there's only one candidate, a simple majority shall be. In fact, I think even one vote will be sufficient, but I'm pretty sure that won't happen. So all in favor of Jean, please raise your hand. And Jean, congratulations and welcome to chair of the committee. And I will, you can take this chair.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure, and I'll try to do my very best to chair this
Congrats, Gene.
department, this committee. And I think the first order of business will be that we'll have to nominate a vice chair. And I'd like to put Mr. James Flynn and nominate him as the vice chair of the finance committee. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
Thank you, Gene. I would like to go ahead, Mr. Chair, and nominate Malind Andikar as clerk.
We have a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That concludes our new order of offices for the Finance Committee, and I guess then we'll move on to the agenda, and the first,
Clerk, come up.
Congrats.
oh, next order of business is to accept the minutes of our June 12th, 25 meeting. Was there any corrections, deletions? If not, I'll put a motion forward to accept the minutes. Does it have a second?
I motion to, I'll second it.
Okay.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, against? 0. Okay, I guess the next order of business is, we'll move to the town manager's report. And good evening.
Good evening. Congratulations to the folks that have reorganized and taken leadership positions. We look forward to working with the whole committee, and congratulations to Kelly and Victoria on your appointments to the committee. We look forward to working with you as well. I'm happy to also share with the committee this evening that Alex has been promoted to the position of Director in Budget and Financial Planning. Well-deserved promotion, expanding her role, not only in the manager's office, but across the organization. So happy to continue to work with her in a bigger role.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations, Alex.
Congratulations.
So that takes us into the first item, which is a request, review and act on a reserve fund transfer. This is for replacement of a well pump at the Maple Avenue Athletic Fields. It's an irrigation pump that we're seeking funding to replace in the amount of $25,000. This is for the parks maintenance budget. And while we technically have sufficient funding on hand, it would deplete the whole repair and maintenance budget for the year. So we're requesting this fund since it was unexpected at the time when we created the budget. And we're happy to answer any questions you may have. Since this is the first reserve fund transfer, we have $360,000 in the account this year. And again, this is a $25,000 request.
Do we have any questions for the committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mizikar, I was just wondering, given that it was 20 years old, is there a plan that we have in terms of aging out of these systems that we put into the budget so that we don't have to appropriate it later on?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I don't have a plan right now, but as we expand our capital maintenance program, we will put a plan in place. I can share, not just directly related to this, but we have acquired, in addition to our one of our key pieces of software called OpenGov, which is a capital asset plan. So we're starting to log all significant assets of the community that would include things like this, and just to get better insight into what we have and when they need to be replaced. But yeah, 20 years, we should have been prepared for this.
Any other questions from the committee?
Yeah. Just a quick follow-up, Kevin, like when you look at that pump, have you had a chance to look at any others that may have that same 20-year aging on it that could be around the corner?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know if Keith has
Yeah,
heard
I'm not
anything.
aware of any other
Okay.
irrigation wells that we have in the community that are even approaching that age. I think Sherwood is the next oldest, and that's the age of that building, which is 12 years at this point.
David?
So have we done any work on it? So is it 25,000, like, is it 25 an estimate, or have we done work and gotten the money, you know what I mean? Are we
The
looking for,
cost?
yeah,
Yeah, so we have full quotes and
Okay.
everything in hand.
okay.
Yep.
So you're ready to go as soon as
Yes.
we get the money? Excellent, okay.
Any other questions? I have one follow-up. We just did a tremendous amount of new irrigation down on that site. And we never thought about replacing the pump?
I think that was Lake Street.
At Maple Ave, I think you're thinking of Lake Street, we put a new well in, but I don't think we've done new irrigation at Maple Ave. That's-
No, I meant the irrigation itself, not the pump, not the well.
You know, we do yearly maintenance. I'm not sure that we've done excessive, any additional irrigation there
okay.
this year. I'll confirm that, but I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure.
okay.
Yep.
Yes?
So, Kevin, one question or maybe a clarification for our own understanding regarding the OpenGov. Are we taking an inventory of all our assets and putting it into OpenGov?
Yes, that's what,
And is that something that we are doing it, and like how far have we come to completion of that?
we just acquired it after July 1st in this budget, so we're just in the preliminary stages of, there's been a lot of training going on, so we're just, bringing the software on board and starting to enter assets now.
Thanks.
No other questions? We need a motion.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I guess we move on to the next one. Fiscal '25 year-end fiscal review.
So I'll have Alex will lead us through this and how we closed out the fiscal year.
Okay.
All right, so as you know, fiscal year '25 closed on June 30th of this year. And so just looking back at the performance of that year, the FY '25 municipal and education budget was a little over 154 million. And of that, 2.12 million was turned back, meaning unexpended from town and town school departments. So this leaves us with about 98.62% of the budget expended, and this is right in line with our 5-year average of 98.5%. So that 2.12 million will go right to free cash.
Questions?
How much was
David?
school and how much was municipal?
I think it's 100% municipal.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
And
Dennis?
where does that leave free cash to start?
So we still need to get free cash certified, but I believe our initial estimate is about 12 million.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. I thought we were at 10 before.
So this next slide just highlights fiscal year '25 local receipts and then the prior 4-year actuals and the year-over-year increase. So as you can see and as we've discussed, especially since fiscal year '23, we've had double-digit year-over-year increases of actual local receipts. This is not something we, expect to continue forever, but it has helped tremendously. And then, we decided to take a little bit of a closer look at, what categories are really driving those increases. And so we kind of picked out the highest drivers of the year-over-year increase: motor vehicle excise, investment income and interest, trash and landfill, and then licenses and permits. So, as you can see, motor vehicle excise, investment income and interest account for a very significant portion of total local receipts received. And then this is just kind of another way to look at this. So the dark blue bar is the total year-over-year dollar amount. And again, we took those kind of 4 highest categories, and of the total year-over-year change, these 4 really account for most of it. So this is just an overview of budget to actual of all local receipts categories. So we did come in $4.7 million over the budgeted figure for FY '25.
Alex, maybe we could spend some time and just go down through these
Yeah,
categories
of course.
one at a time.
Yeah.
I know there's a number of them, but I think we can move pretty fast, and if members have any particular questions in each one.
Sure. So motor vehicle excise, our year-to-date variance was $731,000 over budgeted, 10%. Other excise is comprised of hotel, meals, and cannabis, and that was $130,000 or 13% over budgeted. Landfill was $330,000 over the budgeted amount, or 19%. We did not hit departmental fees by just 1%, so that was pretty spot on. Licenses and permits, $353,000 over budgeted, 26% of what we estimate. Interest income and penalties, as we've seen, almost $2.9 million over budgeted, or 103%. And then lastly, our remaining revenue sources, kind of a little pot of many miscellaneous categories. Some of these are non-recurring, some we get one year and not the next, so a little tricky to truly estimate, but again, exceeded budgeted revenues by $300,000.
Question.
Yeah.
On this sheet, it talks about landfill being about $300,000 above. But I also just saw recently where we're gonna need to raise money in the budget for landfill.
We're gonna need to, so you're talking about the pay-as-you-throw?
Yeah, pay as you throw.
Yep.
So will this cover that?
So those are two separate aspects of the budget. So the landfill is the revenue that we receive for Wheelabrator depositing trash into the landfill along Route 20. And then the solid waste enterprise revenue source is the sale of bags. So this is a general revenue that applies across the budget, and then the pay-as-you-throw program, solid waste collection at the curb, is its own enterprise fund, so it's self-sustaining with the addition of the tax levy a little bit. So this 330 will be in free cash, but we have enough tax levy, which we can talk about, to cover the costs that we'll need for the solid waste budget. But those two things, somewhat related, but financially not interrelated at all, so we
Okay.
can't really get there from here.
The other question is, what caused that shortfall in the bags? Is it that we're recycling more?
There's a number of things, and we could probably save that until we get to the special town meeting,
Okay.
because we'll talk about those articles a little bit and let you know what we have right now.
Thank you, Gene. Kevin, I was wondering, like, the past few years, we have been seeing increase in local receipts quite consistently. So I was wondering if, like, at our budget time, is there any change to the model we could do using modern tools like AI or something that could somehow predict this? Because these are funds that we could have used budgeting so many other programs
Yeah.
that we couldn't fulfill at that time. So I was just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean, we've been trying to move aggressively in that direction, and I agree with you, AI and those types of models will help us get there in the future. And, as soon as this fiscal year, we've had some conversations about that this summer. One counterbalancing point is that we have had sufficient revenues each and every year to be able to expend to our full expenditure cap through the override model. So we haven't been starved of revenue. We've hit that self-imposed expenditure cap for the override model to keep our spending in check. That being said, like, even for the fiscal year budget that we have for fiscal year 26, we're budgeted at about $17.2 million. So we're about $3 million less than we've actually raised last year. And we're trying to predict the revenues that we're going to raise starting July 1, 2026 through June 30th of 2027. So we try to be conservative, because we don't want to miss the mark. I understand we're really far off, or 30% is really far off. And we're trying to work to lessen that gap. The big year that we'll really need to focus on local receipts is when we go, if we're gonna ask for another override, because that will be a significant time where introducing more local receipts would have a direct impact on the tax levy, because we wouldn't have to raise as much in the tax levy through the override, so we could shrink that down. So local receipts have been doing their part as part of the overall revenue model. And you're absolutely right, we could have used them, but they still get used whenever we're drawing upon free cash in a subsequent year to do capital improvements. And we haven't allowed them to kind of inflate where we are in the operating budget and make it harder year over year from a structural deficit standpoint. But appreciate the question.
Yes, Jim?
Thanks, Gene. I just wanted to circle back real quick, if I could, to just landfill. If I remember correctly, would part of the difference there be attributed to some of the town or towns we started contracting with?
That's
And
right.
maybe you didn't know it at the time, and then the dollars came in.
That's absolutely, yeah, that is it. Because landfill revenue is normally rather, we can predict it pretty close. It's a even monthly payment or roughly even monthly payment, but you're right, during the fiscal year, before the end of fiscal year '24, they started receiving ash from Saugus. And that was after we went through the full budget process.
Okay.
And we've made that correction in the fiscal year '26 budget, and we'll be a lot closer this year.
Awesome. Can I have a follow-up, Gene?
Yes. Well,
And Kev, can you just remind me, is there any on deck, or maybe you just answered it, for this coming year, additional towns? Or is it-
No, no.
we're gonna
Yeah.
stay in our lane there?
Yeah, we should be at about that $2 million number again this year.
Okay. Without any new,
Correct. Right.
if I could, do you get inquiries about, are you taking
No,
ash?
so it's all managed through Wheelabrator, who's the
Okay.
operator of the site. So it's just from their waste to energy incineration
Okay.
sites from the region.
Okay, thank you.
any other questions? I'd like to jump around a couple of them I can. Going forward with licenses and permits, we've got some big projects coming forward. Are you taking that into consideration as we move forward in this budget process? I know they're not secure yet, but they're on the horizon.
This is actually, we did a little bit of study on this. We actually had a data analytics intern this summer try to look at some of this for us. Again, the span of time that we're looking to project revenues for when we're building the budget makes this a little bit more challenging. But I definitely agree with you. We have projects in the pipeline that should sustain us at what we actually received in FY '25 for the next two fiscal years or so, from what we can see, right? We have major projects like 409 South Street and potentially some building permits being issued on Clinton Street for those commercial spaces. So, and maybe a couple other rather significant projects, housing and commercial as well, that have started their way through the process. So I think it will be sustained, and we'll be able to reflect that in future or out-year projections for local receipts.
And we did bump up licenses and permits to 1.6 million in this current fiscal year.
David?
For licenses, I'm sorry, strike that, fines and forfeits, we're about halfway through, we're already way over. Like, what was the increase there? Was it one piece of forfeited property, or was it a numerous under fines and forfeits?
I don't know if you can look in yours and see what it is to start with.
Number 19. up
Yeah,
there.
I see that. I don't know that I'll have the answer for that one. But I can try to look as we go through the process tonight and answer before we end, or get it for you.
I have one more additional, unless somebody else has one. I'd like to talk a little bit more in detail on this investment income
Yeah.
on there. What do you think, what are your feelings going forward with investment income?
Yep.
We've
Well-
had some 3 great years, really.
We have.
With the downturn
Yep.
in the economy, and yet we've been able to, move forward.
So as everyone probably knows, the Fed reduced the interest rate for the first time in a long time and said they were gonna do it 2 more times before the end of the calendar year. So that is the 10-year Treasury note, if the 10-year Treasury note, it should, right? It's gonna start to drop, then what we'll receive on the vast majority of our income, which is invested in treasuries and bonds and CDs, will start to decline. So we are anticipating likely to receive less, and we'll be checking in with our financial advisor, Bartholomew, who was at your last meeting, as we get to the end of the calendar year, and we'll look at how far we're laddered out and where we are on those notes and what their due dates are, and see what adjustments, if any, that we need to make for fiscal year 27 as we're building that budget. I think we're in a good spot because, we certainly weren't we doubled what we anticipated receiving, right? So we're very far off, but the good news is we know that it's likely gonna correct, so we won't have to make a major adjustment to our revenue projections moving forward. So being conservative with this line is something that we're gonna, stick to for the next few years.
Yeah, I just had one little follow-up unrelated to this. You sent us during the summer months, the fee schedules that Bartholomew was being paid. Where does the total amount paid to them show up in the budget?
So their fees are deducted from the earnings, so we don't cut a separate check for it.
We don't cut a separate check. Could you share with us what it was?
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah, I think that's an important amount, looking at all the different fee schedules or the different amounts as you were going down through the list.
I have a meeting with them next Monday, so I'll be able to get to that for your next meeting.
Now, will Alex become part of your
Yes.
group for that?
Yes,
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Any additional questions?
So this is just another way to look at local receipts, budget to actual. And then this last slide is just a snapshot of tax revenue. So real estate taxes for FY25, we were at 98.6% collected, and personal property, we were at 95.86% collected.
Is that up or down from last year?
It's about the same.
About the same? Okay.
And,
Any other questions? Go ahead,
and how much of that do we expect to collect over the next few years of what wasn't collected? Typically, do we get most of that back, or we end up going into foreclosures?
So we have 94 properties currently in tax title, which means that they're, a year plus behind in paying their taxes. So we are normally rather successful in not having to get foreclosure. I mean, I think with 410 Oak Street, which is the property that everyone sees when they drive down Maple Avenue, finally just changed hands, and we got about $99,000 from them when the property sold.
Yep.
So that was handled at the closing. So that 98% collection rate is both current year and prior year collection. So keeping it steady is what we want to do, or improve it. We'd have to have a major, collection to get, to 100% or something within a fiscal year. But, we're consistent here, and that does include multi-year funds.
And what are other towns?
I think mostly everyone in the Commonwealth is right around where we are.
Okay.
It's a significant audit red flag if you fall into less than 95%, because it's property tax, it's reliable. 60% of people, not only in Shrewsbury but across the Commonwealth, pay through their mortgage company, and banks have that heavily invested interest, not allow us to get in first position, when they're holding the note on it. So very, very consistent and very high rate of collection across the state.
Yes.
So just follow up to Dennis's question. So how much that 94 properties translate into the dollar amount?
I don't know that, but
Probably not.
I can get you the exact amount that's behind.
Okay.
I would say, I mean, if I had to guess, it's not a significant amount of money, because I mean, that, mostly single-family homes, and if the average bill is about $8,000, and, you know, so even if you took $8,000 times 94, you know, you may be in that ballpark. It would be higher, but for the most part, that's what it is. You know, interestingly, in the public policy realm, and I won't ramble on, but this is where the state has challenged us by changing the tax title laws. And they've reduced the amount of interest that we'll be able to collect and increased the amount of work that we have to do when we place a property in a tax title. So while we'll be able to recoup those fees ultimately when we foreclose upon a property or it's paid, we unfortunately are not able to really have a greater stick or incentive for people to, you know, pay their property taxes. The interest rate used to be 16% once it went into full tax title, and 8% when it was just in normal arrears, and the state has reduced it down to, I think, 8% for both. So it'll just make it more challenging. So we may see total collections decrease over time as people make those judgments. And then the other thing that could be driving that a little bit is, you know, in Massachusetts, municipalities were allowed to retain equity if we used or sold properties after we foreclosed upon it, but we don't get to do that anymore. So if we foreclose upon a property, once we recover our fees, whatever the difference between the back taxes and any fees goes back to the former property owner. So you could see people making decisions, you know, at some point that, you know, they're just not gonna pay their property taxes because it'll ultimately get settled out and back to them.
Thanks.
Just one more follow-up on that, Kevin. Can you remind me or elaborate a little bit more just on the timing? So you've got 100 properties. They go past a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's year 2. Like, how many in that window are actually at 2, 3, or greater years? Is it the same? Does it change? Do we know?
They're not aged very much, but, you know, you'll have 1 or 2 properties that get pretty long, that, you know,
Okay.
properties abandoned or something like that. We can get you a full report on the tax title properties and how old they are, but.
And just one follow-up to that,
Yeah.
if I could, just out of curiosity. So do we initiate foreclosures, or is that bank initiated and we're along for the ride? How does that work?
No. So we do.
We do.
Yeah, but,
Okay.
you know, the policy of the town longstanding, and I think everyone will appreciate, occupied single-family homes is not something that we really go after, right?
Understood.
It's a hardship to the individuals that are living in it. But, you know, business properties or other things like that where they're significantly in arrears, we do tend to pursue those. But, you know, I think we're only coming up on the second property in my 8+ years that we've foreclosed upon. Both of them have been commercial,
Okay,
so, yeah.
that's helpful.
Normally the residential, you know, 2 things happen, right? We actually move to foreclosure, or the property changes hands, and we're in the first lien position when the property changes hands, so we're paid out
Okay.
at that time.
Yes, David?
So, I have experience in the federal side of the seizures, and it's the same rules. You can't make a profit off it, so whatever's left over, you give back. But we have the option of paying the owner that money and keeping the property. Is that the same thing? So we
It is the
still,
same.
so when people get it down to a very low amount, you can just pay them, and then you keep the property for municipal use.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that. You know, that's something that the select board will be reviewing in the near future and considering for 15 Maple Avenue. There shouldn't be a big delta on that one because there's significant money owed back to the town, over $400,000. But if there is any equity from a standard appraisal, then that would be due back to the former owners.
Could I just do one follow-up on the Maple Ave property? It's under our control right now, the cleaners, correct?
We haven't received final foreclosure petition yet.
Okay. Well, my follow-up was, if we did, is there gonna be some dollars involved in our next year's budget to at least flatten that down? I don't know about developing it, but
Once the select board makes a determination what we're gonna do with the property, then yes, we would take action if we need money, you know, to pay the equity if there is any, and we're gonna retain it or what have you. We have very narrow windows of time. I think we have 60 days to make that decision after we actually foreclose, so we'll have to move pretty quick.
Any additional questions from the board?
Nope.
Want to continue, or?
That's it in the FY '25 closeout.
Yep. Okay, do we need a motion? We don't need a motion to accept the presentation. So the next item of business is going to be review the draft for the special town meeting warrants.
So we'll walk through kind of the preliminary look at the special town meeting warrant with the caveat that the select board will be considering and signing a warrant at their meeting this coming Tuesday. So we definitely have some things that are on the agenda that we're going to look at. But I'll start by just taking a step back and talking to you about where we are in the big picture financially. So you know, the town meeting approved the budget of a little over 161 million. Total spending plan was about 189 million. So there have been some changes since the annual town meeting in May. That happened a couple months in advance of the state budget being finalized. And as we always have the opportunity as we go into the fall, we take another look at, we'll take a look at new growth and change it from an estimate to an actual. So the total increase that we have in new available recurring revenue is over $800,000. And we're taking we plan to take a couple actions in using those funds that we'll walk through tonight, and we also plan to make some adjustments within the operating budget that we're really still working on. So where does that additional funding come from? So I mentioned new growth. That's about $300,000 greater than we estimated throughout the budget process. We received additional state aid, both the unrestricted general government aid and Chapter 70 aid, which benefits schools, were higher than we anticipated. Chapter 70 much higher. And then the charges and offsets were actually $93,000 lower than our budget estimate. So that's a good thing because we were holding that money and we'll be able to use it for other purposes. So just from a financial picture standpoint, we're at a much higher recurring revenue estimate now that we've gotten through these past few months, and we're able to look forward to the start of the special town meeting process. So that being said, with the operating budget, we do have some interdepartmental transfers. Those are recognizing some things like, staffing changes, where we have funding that we won't need for salaries and wages on a temporary basis. We had an assistant building inspector leave, so we need to make some changes and move some funds from salary and wages in that department into the expense categories, because we're going to bring a contractor on board while we search. We will need to increase funding for tax title program because of the additional notification and work that we have to do under the state laws this year, and we're waiting on an estimate from our tax title attorneys for that. And the largest change that we're proposing, in the vast majority of those recurring funds right now that we're targeting about $500,000 for, is increasing funding to the pension system. So the pension system's currently a little less than 96% funded. We had achieved full funding as an actuarial study on January 1st, 2021, and then the market has changed and wages have inflated significantly and grown over time. And now we're back at about 96% funded. Increasing the pension by $500,000 puts us on pace to, at least on an actuarial basis, achieve full funding 6 fiscal years from now. So 2031, we would achieve full funding. We're in a good spot. We're still funded well beyond most other municipalities. This is, a good opportunity to increase that investment and reduce our unfunded liability. And, The $2.8 million that would bring this line item up to would be kind of the new baseline for the pension, and since we have recurring revenue, that's an easy decision to make at this time and be able to sustain it into future years.
Questions from the committee? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mizikar, is there any effect, do we have any problems of attrition that would affect the operation, the current operating budget?
Could you be a little more, when you say attrition?
Are we losing people in terms of the number of personnel? And does that have any effect on the operating budget if that's true?
I mean, just, you know, here and there, in some offices, yes, it does, like the town manager's office, we have, you know, an assistant town manager position that's still vacant, so that, you know, those funds will be available, that's something that we're looking at. We do plan to, you know, we wanna keep the opportunity to backfill the position, but, you know, it is providing some opportunities within a number of departments to move some things around. We did, not have certainty that the mental health clinician position within the police department would be funded through the grant that we'd received over the years, so the committee will remember that we budgeted for that this year, but we did receive the grant, so we want to reallocate those funds into better use. Some of it will be retained within the police department as we're settling both patrol, superior officers, and dispatchers union negotiations, so that'll make up some of those needed funds, but yeah, we do have a few opportunities to move some funds around.
Yes, Jim?
Thanks, Gene. Kevin, can we talk a little bit more just on the pension? I always struggle with this one a little bit. I know, like, your notes are clear. We were fully funded back in '21, and now we're not, and now we need to throw more dollars at it. Can you just elaborate a little bit more? Like, I understand the point of a pension, but we're talking about, you know, where these dollars sit. How did we backslide to that dollar value if the markets, at least for the sake of conversation, should have been stable? Like, where's that disconnect? Can you remind me
Yeah, well,
on
so.
how that occurred?
Yeah.
And I know we haven't and I'm taking into the funding into account as well. That just, I don't know, it just seems a little high to me.
Yeah. So a couple things I can try to talk to, and then we can try to get you some more information.
Sure.
If we get to all of it. So we have about $180 million in our pension fund right now. And, you know, it's invested in two primary buckets. Half of it's in the state PRIT, Public Retirees Investment Trust, and then other is, you know, invested more directly by Shrewsbury through financial advisors that are hired by the retirement board. And so the two key components that have led to this funding ratio right now and the backslide from 100% is market performance and wage growth. And the actuarial analysis really is extremely detailed. We do it each and every year, and it takes into effect life expectancy on an occupation basis, but that's really the driving factor.
Okay.
Something that's happened, you know, our employees have gotten, you know, the overall age of our employees have gotten younger, and that's led to some changes. But I mean, I can share the last actuarial analysis with the board and go through those details with you. But those are the two key factors that are leading to this decline.
Kevin,
Yes.
and these are all defined benefits, right?
So it's a defined.
Which will,
Yep.
so we're on the hook to pay that benefit regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most of them do have some growth put into them to begin with.
Yep. So just briefly, employees contribute 11% of their salary and wages to the pension system. And depending how long they serve and what age they retire, they receive a percentage of their top 3 or 5 year salaries, depending on when they are hired. So pension reform over years has been depleting those, you know, it's reducing the value of those benefits. You have to work longer, and you have to spread your wages out further to, in general. But yeah, that's how it works. And you can achieve, I don't know that anyone really does, but you could technically achieve up to 80% of your top 3 to 5 year salaries if you work long enough and retire late enough.
Which is much better than Social Security where it's 30 years.
Well, you'd have to work 32 years.
I meant it's based on 30 years worth of earnings versus your top 5. So it also, defined benefit plans are
Yeah, but
very good for the poor.
Yeah, but just remember, double the contributions, 11% contribution each and every pay.
14 for Social Security. 7 by the employee, 7.5 by the employee, 7.5 by the company.
Well, I'm not including the employer side, I'm including only the employee side, 11% out of each and every paycheck.
Additional,
Sorry, yeah, can I
Yes.
just have 2 quick follow-ups to what I was asking? Kevin, do you know roughly how many participants we have?
I do not,
If
but
not,
I
that's
can't,
fine.
yeah.
I'm just curious.
I'd say it's a little over 1,000 if I had to
Okay.
guess right now. Yeah.
And then,
Yeah. I mean, that would include people that are retired, currently contributing. There, non-teachers in the school districts are included. My number may be a little bit high.
it's
but,
okay,
yeah.
it's a bulk.
Yeah.
That's all I was looking for. And then I was just curious. I understand the split on the state and the financial advisor piece, but is it the what's the right word, benefit board, retirement?
Retirement board, yep.
And can you remind, who's that made up of, and do we have a relationship with them?
Yeah, so they are appointed by the select board. They're mostly retirees. Right now, it's Mary Thompson, Michael Hale, Ralph Icarino, town accountant Amy Lee. And then the executive director of the retirement board is an employee of the retirement system, but works here in this building, Greg Gatso-Giannis. So yeah, they're here. They're governed by PERAC, which is the state pension board that oversees all retirement systems.
Okay.
And all retirement systems in the state have to follow the same defined rules. So you can't get 85% if you work for the city of Worcester and 80% in Shrewsbury.
right.
So the rules are all the same.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So is there any scope in future to move to another sort of retirement program like a 401k, or we have to basically stay?
You have to be in this.
And if an employee moves from one government to another, does it transfer with them?
It does, depending, so like whenever I left Leicester and came to Shrewsbury, my individual contributions came with me to the Shrewsbury system. Those dollars do not grow over time, so if someone withdraws from the system, it's pretty much what you've contributed. They don't go outside of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, though, unless you're buying time from another system that, and if someone comes in from another state, they worked in local government, Missouri, like their time doesn't transfer in.
I just wanted to ask one quick question. The last time we had a presentation from the retirement board, they had indicated very strongly that they were smoothing mostly on
Yep.
their interest returns.
Yep.
On there. Is there any way that they can give us, back 4 or 5 years to see the way that
Sure.
draft has been,
Absolutely.
ups and down? Because I think that's very important to the committee to fully understand, especially on the investment aspect of it, because they've been doing great up until now they're concerned
Yep.
on there. So I think that's gonna be a big thing going forward, so I think we should be, educated a little more in detail on
Sure.
it, because.
Yep.
we
We're
get-
still in a really, really healthy position, don't get me wrong. I
Yeah,
know they're big
no,
numbers, but,
Well-
it's hard because, right, like if this was I'll just say, like, if this was a 401k, you have a market loss, you don't try to catch up to a defined number. But we're required to do that under the state laws, and every retirement system is supposed to be fully funded by 2042.
Going back to our past town manager, I mean, we were funding that at the rate of 3 to 4 million a year.
Almost 6.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. We were contributing high amounts to get it up to that
Yeah.
100%, and that was a big achievement on
Yeah.
part of the town at that time. I mean, we did sacrifice other areas within the town to, fund that each year.
Yeah.
on that, so.
About 12 hours ago, 8 o'clock this morning, Alex and I met with the retirement board. And, I said to them in that meeting, are you all comfortable in the range of 100 or 95% to 105%? And they said yes, and that's where we should be, right? Like, we're not gonna go to that mindset that we have to be at 100%, because it's fleeting. We saw what happened, you know, once we achieved it in 2021, and then the market corrected in 2022, and, you know, or 2021 and 22, and we haven't got back there yet, so.
Well, just a quick follow-up, if you look at a lot of the cities and towns around us, they just said, it's what it is, and we're gonna have the state bail us out
Yep.
when we need the money.
Yep.
I mean, the city of Worcester is one big
Yep.
offender of it, as far as the retirement goes on there, and there's millions and millions of dollars that they're behind on payment, but they don't seem to really take it serious, so, interesting. Okay, any additional?
One last
Yes.
question, Gene. Kevin, this is more related to last year's, the attempt we made to basically, the town hall needed some repair work, which was more safety related. So would any adjustments be done in this particular article for getting the safety work done in the town hall, or is that something that's gonna be done later?
No, that's something that we're working with the board on, and focusing what the project will be, if something will be asked again for the annual meeting in May, but nothing mid-year.
Well, I have a question. It's just because Vikram brought it up. But didn't we already pass, the town meeting already passed that we can raise money to spend on the town hall and DPW? So would we have to go back to the town meeting because we've already passed that article?
It depends what we do. You know, if we go back with the same exact scope, then no, we wouldn't have to go back to town meeting. We'd just have to go back to the ballot and try to get a yes at the ballot.
If we wanted, so if we did it with money that was not a loan, then we wouldn't have to go back to the ballot. So if the town found the $4 or $5 million for the town hall,
Yep,
then we wouldn't need to go to the ballot. We wouldn't
No.
need to go back to town.
yeah, just need to go back to town meeting. We would have to go back to town meeting.
Even though we've already passed an article saying we could raise money on it?
So there's two parts, right? So we have about $2 million in free cash in place for the entire project. So the town hall was about 5 million in round numbers. That other 3 million was a borrowing authorization. So, there was a borrowing authorization that was contingent upon a debt exclusion. So we would have to go back and say that it's not gonna be excluded, and then we're gonna raise it from within the tax levy, or we found other cash to backfill it. But it was, town meeting's vote was for a portion of it was contingent upon a debt exclusion passing.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Want to move on to the next article, or?
Sure. This is the solid waste budget. Probably saw a community advocate article about this. So we're looking at the budget for fiscal year '26 because we had some challenges in fiscal year '25, and we want to be proactive and ensure that we don't have the same situation in fiscal year '26. So in summary, we're looking at declining revenue year over year within the solid waste program. Where we finished fiscal year '25 from a financial standpoint was about $172,000 in the hole when you look at the enterprise budget in and of itself. And we anticipated in the FY '26 budget, the current year, finishing the year $200,000 to the good. And we were gonna apply that retained earnings, carryover funding, in the FY '26 budget. And because of that, we also need to make an adjustment to our revenue projection for FY '26. So it starts us about $465,000 in deficit as we look at the budget on paper. So why do we find ourselves here? Really, a couple things. We're still investigating this. I can't tick and tie every dollar, but a couple things are going on. We see that there's less waste being tipped at the incinerator, so less waste would mean less blue bags that are being purchased. We see increase in the total volume of recycling, And we know that's mostly attributed to the single stream recycling and the carts that everyone has at home. The number one thing that's really concerning about that is that our contamination, since we've gone to single stream, has significantly increases. It's doubled from about 6% contamination to 12% contamination, which isn't good. The more contaminated our recycling is, the less money we get for it, or the more money we have to pay to get rid of it. So, we're looking at all these factors. There was definitely, a trend that we should have picked up on earlier, that declining bag trend, which when we set rates with the board, we held bag sales year over year flat. We should have trended it lower, because that's the direction that it's moving in. And, but when we set this budget, we didn't do that. So we need to make these adjustments. We will use tax levy to make these adjustments. It's not a tax increase, it's those dollars that have become available through the state process, state aid, that we're able to use for it. We've also reduced we plan to reduce the budget. So we're gonna take about $160,000 in expenditures out of the budget that we feel that we can reasonably do. The hard part about pay-as-you-throw budget is that it's mostly contracted. It's, the money that we pay to have the waste incinerated, the money that we pay to have the waste and recycling picked up at the curb. Those are the two big buckets, about a $4 million budget. So we will reduce $160,000 and then request an additional appropriation to make up the difference.
Question.
Yes, go ahead, Dan.
Is part of the reason people are getting less bags is because they're taking advantage of a big barrel that no one can see into and that gets dumped into the machine?
It's one of our concerns that.
And is there any plan to sort of audit some of those containers?
Yeah, we plan to do audits, and we plan to potentially modify the bags so they're more discernible to the driver when they're looking at the camera and they dump in.
Okay, and then the second part is there going to be a community effort to let people know that, the cheating on the recyclables, the contaminated recyclables, are actually costing the town money?
Yeah, we are working on marketing and communications for all these things as we go through making financial adjustments. And
because I was asked by a couple people about that article, and I said part of it might be the fact there's more contaminated recycles. We're not getting paid as much, or we have to pay to get rid of stuff. And they said, what do you mean? So people don't really understand about the recycles, that there has to be clean for us to actually get a benefit. If we put styrofoam in there, we put food in there, whatever, you're not going to get the same amount back. Or as I think you mentioned, we might actually have to pay to get rid of it. And that's pretty concerning for up to
I would
6 to
think
12%.
that would become an educational thing, really, that, we've got staff for that. I mean, the young lady had done a lot of real great things as far as the recycling goes, and rubbish and everything, to educate the people in some way that they just can't do it. But it's so accommodating, really, when you think it. They open up the top and in goes the mixture, and I don't know if people realize that, but that's all separated by hand. When it gets the Casella out there, it's on big conveyor belts, and there's people picking it as the stuff goes down through. It's unbelievable.
And if I may, Gene, what is surprising is in our prior budget hearings, when we used to talk about this, there was a decrease in contamination. So it is quite, it's a little sad that we have had this big spike.
We're one of the last communities to go to single stream in our approach to recycling for these reasons. It's certainly much more convenient to the resident to not have to separate cardboard. We used to have a cardboard week and a mixed week, so it's harder for residents, more inconvenient for residents to manage at the curb. But this is one of the challenges that we see from that, right? When it's cardboard week, it's pretty easy to tell what we're picking up, but it's harder to tell when it's in a single container.
So I know the town used to pay 60% of the bag, and it dropped to 50% of the bag. And there's a plan from 2025 to 2030 to raise those bags every year. So the average home is of 120 to 178. So given that the town is paying less and the bags are going up, does that affect any of this at all? Because I mean, I'm just having a kind of a math problem right now.
Yeah. We're gonna have to revisit that multi-year analysis that we did and see what the bag rates will have to do. We don't plan to increase bag rates immediately to handle these challenges, but when we get to the spring and we're building the FY '27 budget, that will have to be on the table.
Because so if I have a bag or if I have 2 bags, or I have 3 bags, each bag has a certain amount of profit built into it.
Yep.
So if you're selling less bags, then they're picking up less bags, they're processing less bags, so that profit remains the same, but it's at a lower scale. So I'm just having, me and the 2 people watching this meeting at home are having a hard time figuring out, like, if each widget we get 10 cents on, we're selling 1,000 widgets, but now we're selling 500 widgets, how are we losing money when we're making a profit each one we sell? Does that make sense? If the truck picks up 3 bags or 1 bag, they're burning less, they're sorting less, they're doing all this stuff, so that cost, it should still cover everything, we just don't see a bigger profit.
Well, the cost of the truck remains the same though.
So there's flat fees involved, so we have to have almost a minimum amount of bags.
Correct.
Okay, so it's not per bag, it's not so many, they don't dump it by every truckload, they pay a certain amount. We get a flat fee to pick up our garbage.
There's 2 parts. So there's the truck that comes in, and the people that come and pick it up at the curb, that's a flat amount.
Okay.
And then when it's tipped at the incinerator, that's a variable amount.
Okay, so
Volume.
that is a variable
Yep,
amount,
yep,
okay.
yep.
So it's really what's getting us is the flat fee to have
Mm-hmm.
that, and people are using less bags, so it's causing us to make it up on the other end, okay.
And recycling, if, to Dennis's point, if we're paying to get rid of it because it's dirty versus receiving money for it because it's clean. Even in some of the best markets, you're not making money on it, but that variable is influencing it.
Mullins first, and then Vic.
No, go ahead.
Mullins first, and then Victor, then we'll
Yeah.
go back to you.
Yeah.
So I do agree with, what Dennis and Jean said, like, I think we need to have a campaign done, about the awareness, to our residents. I know, I forgot the timeline, whether it was pre-COVID or post-COVID, but City of Newton had done that, in some prior years, and they saw favorable results as the residents of their city were brought up to the speed as to, why it is important to have, the clean recyclables, So I think that is something that we should look for sure. Thanks.
Thank you. Just in continuation with Dave's question, is there any scope for renegotiation when Casella comes up again, when their contract ends, or even in between the contract to sort of offset this less bag that are coming
Yeah.
from the community?
I mean, there is an opportunity, but it's a conversation that we have talked about and we do intend to have. The challenge with them is they're still going to every household, whether they're picking up 2 or 3, it's not a big cost difference, right? They have 4 trucks in town every day, staffing for that, the truck cost itself, the fuel, none of that really changes significantly if they're picking up, marginally less waste at the curb, but we're in year 2 with Casella. It's a 5-year agreement, and we will revisit it both midterm and at the end of the 5 years and go back out to bid and make sure we're competitive.
Because it is sort of counterintuitive. We say, hey, if everyone puts out 2 bags, our bag rates don't go up. But we put out 1, it does go up. So it seems like I do think there has to be some education, because I think that just doesn't sort of make logical sense until you go to the numbers.
Dennis?
Is there any thoughts of putting in some type of enforcement fines for?
We've talked about all those things internally, yes. Yeah, we'd have to get a policy put in place, but yes.
But I would think we'd want to work on at least getting a policy, whether we enact it or not, but again, 12%, again, I think 12% is a lot higher than we expected, and the fact that it really grew once we went to the big barrel, where you can put your garbage at the bottom of it and your recycle's at the top.
Jim?
Yeah, I mean, not to belabor the point, I'm just curious, Kevin, if just reflecting back on the contract, if maybe this was something that did come up, you kind of answered it a little bit earlier with that we're one of the last communities to go single stream. you know, here we are 2 years later, as Vikram noted, we're kind of going in reverse. I mean, I'll speak for myself. I'm kind of not surprised, and we've had a lot of conversations over the last couple of years I've been on the board about campaigns and getting the message out. I'm not saying we don't do it, but I'm just curious. I guess my question would be, when we decided to go with them, did that come up in conversation, or was that just too much in the weeds to go to one big bucket with everything going in versus staying with a vendor that was still doing the dual, and maybe we wouldn't be in this position?
We spent a lot of time prior to this contract working with other contractors. And like Kevin said, we are literally one of the last
Okay.
towns in the community, in central Mass that has, that went to single stream. And one of our challenges when we were going through that RFP process was, out of the 4 or 5 contractors that we worked with, there was only one that was doing dual stream, and they were only doing it because they were here.
Yeah, where can I go with that?
Yeah, yeah, Jim, and then,
Just, Keith, that's a great point. So what you're saying is, so we did look at it, and that this one company was all that was left. So I guess you've got all these vendors saying, we want to go to single stream, right? What does the incinerator folks say? Do they get involved, or do they care? Like, are they like, you're making our job, someone said they're handpicking it? I'm just curious, like, where's the dialogue here?
So-
Like, they
so-
push back and,
So incinerator and recycling is different, right? So incinerator is your trash.
okay,
Your trash goes to
okay.
the burn, right? Recycling goes to what's called the MRF, where, as Gene spoke, it's dumped on the ground, put on a big conveyor belt, and picked through and sorted, and that's how they separate the commodities. And that's how we either make money or don't make
Yeah.
money, related to that. So, and one of the big drivers in the trash hauling world is driver retention and safety. So moving to single stream with buckets, they use an automated arm, you have a lot less workman's comp claims, like trying to keep staff, like everybody's struggling keeping staff. So, having those automated trucks so that they can, the drivers don't have to get out and pick the bags and as much as often. Like, all of those were factors in our, like, Gosher and I spent half a year really, trying to develop that RFP and meeting with vendors. So that's how we got the single stream piece out of it. It wasn't,
Okay.
we certainly didn't just,
No, it sounds like
They
you
were
put a
gonna
lot
do
of
that.
thought into it.
yeah.
Okay. Just like, promise, last question
Yeah.
from me. I'm just curious, on the MRF side, I should have said that earlier, but do they have a voice? Do they say, hey, Shrewsbury's come back, they were at 6, you're now 12? Or is it just, that's just the nature of the business?
So they do quarterly audits, right? And we go and see those. Well, I shouldn't say we. Gosher goes and sees those.
Sure.
She likes to see the recycling. But that's how we learn. And then,
Okay.
Gosher does do, like, she does do a lot of outreach. And to your point, maybe we have to look at different avenues to do some to grab more people that don't really know, that's always a struggle
Okay.
with education, so.
And in this instance, the MRF and the hauler is the same.
Right.
It's Casella.
That's the other
So
part, right.
Casella's
Right.
running the MRF.
Okay.
Yeah, and so when we had waste management, our recycling went to Casella's facility. So that facility hasn't changed.
Okay.
Right? Just to Kevin's point, it's the same.
Right.
Just now it's all within the same company.
Thank you.
Kelly?
If Shrewsbury's one of the last towns to go to the single stream with the big bucket, is the data available to look at similar towns? And, I mean, I'm assuming people are people, right? So you get this big bucket and all kinds of stuff goes in it. For us to understand how long-lasting of a cost issue is this going to be, even beyond environmental or marketing and communications? Were other towns able to say, okay, we're seeing the exact same trend Shrewsbury's now going through, we'll do an education program and it snaps back, both from compliance and also cost? Or does this end up becoming sort of a cost that changes the structure of the system?
We'll look for that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the data is available. I know it's available, and we can certainly get that for you.
I just do one follow-up. Is Casella's got all their new vehicles in town now?
Yes.
Yes.
And none of the old ones are operation, they're all,
As long as the new ones are running, yep.
as long as they're running?
Well, you know,
I hope.
you know how it is. You can buy a brand new car and it doesn't work.
Any additional questions from the board? No? All right. We'll move on to Article 3.
So, you know, for all these projects, we will, you know, be bringing more data, even on pay-as-you-throw. Gosha will be here. We'll talk more through the data and everything with you. But as we look at Article 3, this is another one we'll spend some more time providing a little more context and background. We are requesting funding to purchase and equip an ambulance. There's about a 14-month lead time on this, which puts us in the window to stand up our own emergency medical services aspect of the fire department in the first quarter of calendar year 2027, which is an initiative that we've been working on. So it's $540,000 to build and equip an ambulance, so that's what we're requesting. And like I said, we'll be able to talk more about the overall financial model and how things will hopefully work. Not in the greatest level of details, we're still working it through, but definitely as we start the FY27 budget process, we'll be talking about that with you.
Questions from the board? Yes.
Forgive me if this is an ignorant question. I've attended one town meeting and this is my first finance committee meeting, but if I remember correctly, at town meeting, we approved a whole list of capital equipment for us
Yep.
to purchase through the budget. So is this is additional, and then where are these extra funds coming from?
Sure, yeah. Do you want to go with
Yeah.
funds?
Sure. So, one of the items in that capital plan was a fire apparatus fund, actually, and that was $250,000. So that is part of this 540. And then a portion will come from free cash, and then potentially a small portion from some of the taxation funds that are available. So of that 540, about half of it is already allocated in the capital budget. We're just kind of gonna move it from the fire apparatus fund to the ambulance purchase.
Thank you.
I do one quick thought. Is this the total for that ambulance fully equipped?
Yes, sir.
It is.
Mhm.
So there'll be no additional equipment going into that because a lot of cities and towns buy their ambulance and then they
Yeah.
equip them themselves.
It's about $10,000 for the ambulance, and it, you know, from the manufacturer, and that includes the stretcher, like, that, you know, we need, and then $30,000 for the remaining fit out, and, you know, all the other durable equipment that needs to go on it.
And we've already negotiated, the fire department is gonna run this,
We're working through that.
okay? And how about housing it
Yep, it will be housed at headquarters.
at headquarters?
Yep.
And so we'll still have the lake,
So,
Another one from UMass.
Worcester Emergency Medical will still operate out of the lake. We'll have to start as a basic life support ambulance, because there's advanced life support and basic life support. You have to run BLS under certification from the state Department of Public Health for so long and prove that you can run an ambulance service, and then you can seek certification for advanced life support. And that will all be balanced and worked through. We'd like to get to ALS, but before we get there, Worcester EMS will provide that. And it'll be an interesting endeavor as we partner with Worcester EMS, because we'll still have 2 full years left once we get our program up and running with them, with their contract. And during that time, we'll be determining their interest in continuing to service the town, our need to do more. So it's a
now,
partnership.
there's gonna have to be some adjustments at the center building there to store the ambulance, something.
No physical adjustments to the building.
No,
itself.
I meant, something has to come out of the way. If you
Oh,
go by
yes,
there on a
equipment,
Saturday or
yep.
a Sunday and
Yep.
the doors are open, the place is full.
The
so-
1926 will have to go. We'll be done with that.
Okay.
No, but you're right, Gene.
Yeah.
We will have to move the brush truck is what's gonna go, more than likely. And then, you know, as we're looking at the ambulance, geez. As we're looking at the cemetery and building the new building for the cemetery, you know, that may free up some space in the garage there that we
Yeah.
can coordinate for a fire.
Okay.
It's like having an ambulance at the cemetery.
It'll be in the fire headquarters.
One follow-up question to Jean's question, Kevin. What about a maintenance plan on this? It's expensive equipment.
Mhm.
I'm expecting it's going to be pretty significant to maintain it every year. and keep it up to date?
It will, I mean, I don't know what those numbers are, but, you know, as we get into the FY '27 budget, it'll be a part of it, yes, the maintenance will be. You know, I think, you know, if you look at a community like Westboro that's pretty similar to us, they're pulling in about $2.2 million in revenue from their ambulance, and, you know, we're working on that financial model for the first couple of years to. enough
Maybe
money.
when you make that final presentation, you can bring that all into focus,
Yep.
that we're gonna be making some dollars on this too, in the administrative
Yep.
aspect of it. So we understand the whole big picture of it,
Yep.
because it's a very complicated, but it's very money-making.
We want to be able to give town meeting a sense that we're doing that, and the key conversations that we'll have will be during the FY '27 budget process, because we are anticipating running the ambulance for at least 3 months during fiscal year '27, so. But we're working through those financial models, negotiating with the union, developing staffing models, all those things right now.
Dennis?
Of the, I think it's $540,000 to buy the ambulance. How much is for the physical ambulance, and how much was for the equipment to fill it?
Yeah, so about 510 for the ambulance, and then 30 for everything else that we're responsible for, radios, you know, things like that, equipment within it. That wouldn't include the non-durable things like medical supplies and all
Yeah.
that, that'll happen elsewhere.
Yep.
This will be marked as a Shrewsbury vehicle,
Yeah,
Kevin?
Shrewsbury Fire Department, yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
Any additional questions? No? Would you like to move on to Article 5?
Article 4.
Oh,
Um,
4.
So Article 4 is a little bit of just a cleanup article. So at the May 2024 annual town meeting, we moved funds that we received from the opioid settlement into an opioid special revenue fund. We had received them prior to being able to set up a special revenue fund, and these are just some remaining funds that were received in fiscal year '24 that just need to be, that hit free cash and just need to be transferred over to the opioid special revenue fund.
Questions? No? I guess now we can move on to Article 5.
Article 5 is another little bit of a cleanup that we typically do at the fall special town meeting. So we get funds for ride shares that generate in Shrewsbury, and so we have to appropriate those funds. And so these would be funds from 2024 and 2025 that we received, and we just need to move them into, appropriate them to be able to be used for the purposes intended. So sidewalk, crosswalk, pedestrian mobility initiatives.
Any questions? One?
Just, again, just for the knowledge purpose, do we know, like, how many companies that run this program within the town, and, like,
So
do
if
we
it's
issue
like
certain
Uber,
permits?
Lyft, no.
Oh, so, okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
yep.
So this is,
So rides that generate.
Okay.
it's 10 cents per ride. So a lot of rides.
Yes.
Is it being utilized?
Yes, yeah, we've used it for sidewalk and crosswalk and those initiatives, and we've made those improvements.
Gina, I had a question.
Yes.
So, could you just tell us about the process of how we decide sidewalks and where we're gonna build them and all that?
So the vast majority of our sidewalk expenditures are coupled with our roadway improvement program. So we have to make sure we're ADA accessible and we have the mats in place when we're upgrading the road. So that's where we do. And then we just put sidewalks on Crescent Street. So it's just reviewed internally based upon needs and access and conditions. Just like our roadway improvement program.
And is there any, sorry for a follow-up, is there any input from residents as far as needs are concerned in different?
I mean, we receive requests or whatever from residents, but we don't have a formal public engagement process right now.
Yes.
So just to follow up on Vikram's point, right, so do we prioritize certain, sections, depending upon, the residents who have mobility issues, then, we prioritize those sidewalks over others. Do we have such kind of,
Yeah, we definitely prioritize based on existing conditions and usage. Yeah. But I don't know that we're prioritizing based upon individual resident, attributes.
something to think about?
Yeah,
probably.
absolutely.
Any additional questions from the board? No? And, move on to the next article, 6.
Article 6 is a placeholder for prior year bills, so these would be bills incurred in fiscal year 25, but received after we were able to close that out. At this time, we have none to be paid.
That's good news. We don't have any questions on that one. Go to Article 7.
Article 7 is a citizen's petition. We did receive one, and this is to authorize the select board to petition for special legislation to allow a question on the annual town election ballot on the addition of fluoride to the public water supply. So the lead petitioner will be invited to the public hearing to present on this article.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
could it be arranged that we get the presentation material of the petitioner prior to the meeting so that we can be prepared for it?
Yep, we will request that they submit any presentation materials in advance.
Any questions?
And this might be out of scope, but are we getting water from other places that already have the fluoride in it, or is Shrewsbury adding them? Okay, so we are in full control of what fluoride, okay.
Yep.
Because I was thinking we got water from other places. Excellent, okay.
Quick question. Is there any fluoride naturally in our water? Because I know in some places there's fluoride in the water already.
I don't know the answer to that, but we will have that for you.
Any additional questions? No, we'll go to Article 8.
Sure. So Article 8 is the next step in, which is a feasibility study towards the expansion and renovation of the public high school. So this is Module 2 of the Massachusetts School Building Authority, and we have estimated, based on other projects and data that we've received from the Mass School Building Authority, that we'll need about $3 million to go through this project. That's the total cost. The MSBA program is a grant reimbursement program, and we anticipate them covering ultimately 52% of the cost. So we intend to appropriate $1.5 million in free cash and request $1.5 million in a borrowing authorization, which we will likely never have to call upon that borrowing, because every time we spend at least $80,000, we can get 50% reimbursement back from the state. So by the end of the project, we can make the cash flow work that we won't have to borrow, and the state will have contributed their 1.5, and we'll have contributed our 1.5. So significant project, significant program. The school building committee has met once, and they'll meet again before the special town meeting and your public hearing on this matter. And this is a model that we've used for our other MSBA projects as we've worked through them, including the Beale School and the Oak Middle School door window repair project.
I wonder if you could just share a little bit more in detail what we're going to be getting for $3 million.
Yes. I mean, I can talk to it too, but I
Yeah.
mean, if you want to.
So this includes the feasibility study for the building, and based on what the MSBA deems required per student, that we would have to do that building to bring it up to their standards, and then solve the overcrowding issue that we have. Currently, that building has about 1,900 students in it. According to current MSBA standards, the building should only have 1,250 in it. So they have a square foot process that they determine what each student's required. So that entire process will happen along with the educational programming. Feasibility study will be part of this, which is also required by the MSBA. And then the ultimate, the end of this process, we would have a full project budget and 25% design which is like a conceptual design plan to move forward.
So basically, included in that, you're gonna be selecting an architect too, huh?
Correct, so we would start with selecting owner's project manager, and then you would select it, then the designer would be selected.
Is there any public input up during that period?
Well, the building committees are public meetings, not public hearings, and we have a 9-member building committee that is part of that process, choosing the OPM, choosing the architect. And then I would believe as part of this feasibility study, many stakeholders will be involved in that process. You know, community members, teachers, principal of the building, you know, all those sort of things. So I think there'll certainly be community engagement during this next.
I just wanna make sure that, because everything I hear on the street right now is that they want more community input
Sure.
and discussion
Yep.
on there. I just want, and just one other thing, I'll open up to the committee. Percentage-wise, what was the percentage of reimbursement on Beal? It was only 50.
Well, I mean, there's two different numbers, right? There's so when you actually get to the construction project, I think the base reimbursement that MSBA gave to us was like 52.5, 52.48, I think was the actual number. But when you build a construction project, they have individual limits and thresholds. So like the site work can't be greater than 7% of the overall cost of the project. So the actual reimbursement rate that you get back is sometimes less than the base rate that they give you. So you're right, I think Beal was a little less than 50% actual reimbursement because we exceeded some of those internal control points and thresholds.
I just wondered about when I heard the percentage. I'll open it up to committees if there's any question. Yes, ma'am.
So, Kevin, if you can help me understand, like, so earlier this year, we established a school building committee, right? And so where does the outcome of that committee fit into this whole process? Like, can you
So-
help me understand?
Yeah, so they are responsible for overseeing this entire process. They will be the ones that pick the owner's project manager and the architect for it, and then meet with them to shape the outcome of the project along with school staff and other communities, members. Will have the public input, as Keith said, and all those things. So that building committee will oversee this project.
I see. And so the funding that we are requesting here, they are part of this whole
They-
process as
They will be responsible for approving all the bills associated with it, yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Question, yes, David?
So we spent several million on DPW, and that never, but he got voted, we couldn't take them, so the money's gone. We start on this, we're gonna add millions and millions, and then if the override doesn't go in May of '27, it kills the project, I would think. Or if we don't vote on the couple $100 million bond, that kills the project. So I am concerned, I know this is how the capital projects go, but we are putting millions of dollars into things and just, it's done, it's gone. So I'm very concerned, because this has that additional hurdle of the override, which the other construction projects did not. That we do this, we don't fix the town hall, we don't use any of that money before. So how much do you think we're going to have to put into this before that vote in May of '28 probably, or fall of '27 for this construction project, for the borrowing? How many millions is it probably gonna take?
This is it. So this is, the
3 million
next,
and we're done. We'll
the
never
next
have-
vote would be for the full construction.
Which would be the couple $100 million. the
Yes.
bond. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Any additional questions?
I was just gonna say, the one thing is, if we don't do the study up front, if we try to, we could have much bigger expense than we expected. Much, kind of what happened with the DPW, right? The people said, oh, you told us, whatever, 30, and it came in at 40. So I'd rather spend the good money now and get as close as we can, as good an estimates as we can, and maybe even, so that when we do come to vote, we'll know what we're spending. And yeah, maybe it doesn't pass, but that design should last if we try to do it another year.
Yes?
So, during the DPW discussions, there were, I can't recall the exact, point that came up, but there were some, in the, in retrospective, what went wrong in terms of why we got that 30 million versus 40 million. Are any of those inputs gonna go into the new committee that forms so that we don't make those same mistakes again?
Yeah, I mean, that is the goal, absolutely. I mean, we, you know, many of the, I mean, from the staff, we're all the same people that are involved. And, you know, we're well aware of the oversight that we need to place on the architects and the owner's project manager to the level of detail that we need to get from professionals to provide input on the plans that, you know, are responsible to us and we can get good outcomes. And that is certainly what we're focused on this big project.
Is there any way that we can make that, sorry for the follow-up, Dean, we could sort of make that into a process in terms of what we learned and that's an input? Because people keep on changing, and it may be a new building committee that comes in, new people. And is there some way that we could formulate the lessons learned from one effort and transfer it to the next, so that that information is not lost?
Well, yeah. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I completely appreciate it. You know, the biggest challenge that we had with the municipal facilities project is we had a poor architect to start with, and we got rid of that architect, right? And you know, we're gonna do everything we can to select an appropriate architect this time. The MSBA process is a little bit different, because the MSBA pre-vets all their architects and owners project managers, and you can only select from a subset list that have been pre-qualified by them. So there's a little bit of a difference to that, but staff will play a large role to make sure that, you know, we all feel that we're all here. We don't enjoy sitting in front of all of you and talking about a $10 million challenge that we all faced, and we're gonna make sure that doesn't happen again.
Any additional questions? Good. You
No,
wanna-
just one comment is,
Yep.
in the last few schools that have been built, we've actually come in, I believe, under budget.
Yep,
So
we have, yep.
we probably have an architect and a building group already that we can trust. Whether we choose them or not, you know, it doesn't mean we choose them, but we've done it before and we've done it, you know, under budget, so.
Sure.
Do we have an Article 9 any longer? So that's the end of the articles on there. Any additional comments? And we'll move on to the next article. On there, it's the review meeting schedules. You got October 9th, 25, public hearing on the special town meeting warrants. So that's moving up next Finance Committee meeting 2 weeks earlier. And that'll be a public hearing also.
It will.
And October 22nd, special town meeting. And then we get into our regular schedule of November the 20th and December the 18th, 2025. I would just like to make a couple comments as far as special public hearings and things in front of the Finance Committee. This has been bothering me since our last town meeting, and I'm wondering if there's some way we can communicate with town meeting members to encourage them to come to the Finance Committee public hearings, where they can voice all their concerns and their questions, and get them answered before we move on to, you know, the special town meeting itself. And one of the things that I thought about was, maybe we could have an additional mailing to town meeting members about the public hearings that the Finance Committee is gonna hold, and that they're welcome, and I don't know how we get them here, whether we have coffee and dessert or what, but we get them here and
Just drag them.
we get their questions and their answers, you know, out there, and if we don't have the answers, we can get back to them before we go into the annual town meeting. Yep. That's my thought on that particular one. Lynn?
Yeah, and I'll second that, knowing, the proceedings of the town meeting itself, there are so many overlapping questions that come to the town meeting that have either been discussed in other public hearings like the finance committee, and, I think we can cut down on time spent, and I know you do a good job, Kevin, of explaining and, telling everything that you can, but I think, I agree to Jean's
Yeah.
point is like, if we have more participation here, I think it allows people to even think about, what you are answering. And there is time between the public hearing and town meeting so that, there are follow-up questions asked and more involved discussions happen rather than collecting the initial information, so I agree.
I had
Dennis?
two quick comments. One is, can we use the board outside of the police station and really start, as we come to that, say, finance committee on this?
Yeah.
Really just start pushing that out. That wouldn't cost us much as a mailing. I think a mailing's fine, but in addition to a mailing. And second, thank you guys. I've been saying this every, I think, every finance committee meeting going up to the hearings anyhow. But we can also tell them that if they do come, then I'll have to be quiet during the town meeting.
One last suggestion to that, Dean. Is it possible to do some public broadcasting of the streaming of the meeting, like in the library or in the police station or somewhere? Because a lot of people, if we have the whole town meeting, they won't fit in this room. There are places where they can publicly go see it if they wish to.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I know you guys know this, like, we're live on SMC right now. And I don't disagree with any, I can't make miracles happen, right? Like, I know you guys know that, right? We're all preaching to the choir here. We've already engaged with town meeting members on the schedule for this special town meeting. We've let them know. We're gonna continue to do that through our new communications coordinator. And we will be on top of it. We can put it on the sign. We have the email, we have the mail, we have email addresses and physical addresses of all town meeting members, so, I mean, we can do that 240 member mailing if that's something that we can, fit within the budget, and which I'm sure we can, so as long as you're not pinning on me to have people in the audience, we'll do everything we can.
Can we offer them a free trash bag if they show up?
So
The collections, though.
David?
do other committee, I think the select board does, other committees do like booths or anything at town events? Is it even
And the
the,
library has, yeah, I mean, generally, no.
okay.
I mean, sorry, if I make
No, go ahead.
another comment, I mean, fall festival is coming up, so we can put it there, I mean, we get good foot traffic there.
Mhm.
Like, hey, here is the schedule.
Oh, we will have a booth there.
Yeah.
We
Maybe we can
a
have
booth
a-
there, select board, I think we have 4 booths,
Yeah.
5 booths for the town.
Maybe we can
Can
have a
advertise
chart
it.
there, like,
Yeah,
upcoming,
Yep.
Meetings, so
public participation schedule, whatever you want to call it.
if we fill the hall, we can move to the senior center.
Yeah.
I just had 2 additional items.
I had one more question on
Oh,
that.
go ahead.
I know because of, there's open meeting rules and all that, but is it possible to have a small subgroup of finance committee or someone do a public cable show?
Sure.
Going up into that? I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know what the rules would be on that because of the open meeting piece, but
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly do it either way. I mean, if we needed to post a meeting, we could do that.
yeah, and even if we, if no one shows up, then if we do another one after that, just with some, here, 25 answers that we think are very important or should be understood before coming to town meeting. I mean, everyone runs for this and says they're gonna, publicly interact with the community, but they really don't. They show up unprepared, and I will say that again, I've said it at the meeting. A lot of people ask the question, and if you read the warrant, it's the first line of the warrant. So, we'd be much more productive as a community if we all came prepared.
The other 2 things I had been thinking about is, I would throw it out to the manager to get his feelings on it, is that we get into a little more detail as subgroups during the initial stages of the budgets with the bigger budgets. I don't say we have to have, nothing against the town clerk or the accounting department or taxes, but the big ones, when we get in the $5 million, the $10 million range, if maybe one or two people can sit in on some of the presentations to you, we used to do that, and then bring back to the committee, I think it will cut down tremendously on the amount of time that we spend, because somebody, you know, has had the lead on it, and they can feed on the information to us, and we rely on their judgment. And the next thing is, I still think the 3 board meetings is very important, and I think that should be done. I think that's a good educational portion, especially where you got new people in both select board, finance committee, town, employees, administrators, et cetera, that we could share some of that, and I think that's very educational, at least it has been for me in the past. So I'm just throwing it out. I don't know what the feelings are of the committee.
I think the last tri-board meeting we had, which is like the first tri-board meeting we had since I've been on committee for, 6-7 years, brought a lot of outside people. I mean, that was one of the few meetings that we were at where multiple people that weren't part of the group showed up for the meeting. So I do think the town, would like to see that a little bit more. And I think it's
Yeah.
a good way for everyone to, get the information out and even up on what we think and move forward.
Yeah, I don't want to keep adding more meetings, but I think that's an important educational portion of it to everybody. Yes, Dave?
So, but also the timing of it, I think last year was a little bit late
Yeah.
in the cycle. And I think
Right.
everything was sort of set by the
Yeah.
time, so the
Yeah.
discussion was kind of moot.
Yeah.
I would like to see it earlier in the season so that we could talk about issues and have an effect upon them for the current fiscal cycle.
No, that's why I'm throwing it out now, because I don't think the budgets even start, I mean, internally, they start to go together, but December is the time you really get into the nitty-gritty, but I'm sure there's a lot of discussions and meetings before then at certain times. So that's all I have, unless somebody else has any additional questions. As far as other business goes. Last thing is communication, and it's just a letter to the Finance Committee from James Kane, Town Moderator, regarding 2 new members. And that's basically
Mr.
it.
Chair, if I may, I don't know if I was the only one, I never received these emails, and I don't know.
No.
They were,
it bounced.
I believe that they were letters that came in,
Oh.
and they did come in over the summer, so I
I
did
see.
not see them until
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago.
One more, I've forgotten the business. So Restore, the next couple of years is historic for us, but I don't believe we've ever had this sort of budget model before, correct? So it's the first time we're planning out, we know we don't have enough money in 2027, so we're gonna pull from our savings account. In 2028, we're gonna pull from our savings account. So I think we also have to take that in mind as we talk about all these expenditures, that we're not actually bringing enough money to pay our bills. We have a savings account that will make up the money. And so I do think it's a different conversation over the next couple of fiscal cycles than we normally have, where we had the money to pay the bills. So I do bring that up because it's the first time I believe and the town manager can correct me, that we have this model that we know we set up an override, and we're gonna have an override, 6 years from the last time we had an override, probably. But I do wanna put that sort of on the table, like, hey, 2027, we gotta borrow, we gotta take out of our savings account to pay for our basic bills. In 2028, we gotta take a lot of money out of our savings account to pay for those bills. So as we do this, we have to remember, we're not in, where we thought we'd be financially, is in fact, we're taking out savings, but we are taking out our savings account to pay for our basic needs.
Any other comments?
Just-
Ready?
Just
Yeah.
one comment, I know we welcome 2 new members out here, but I would like to thank Scott, who rolled off from our committee, for his volunteering on this committee and then the point of view that he brought in. So it was definitely instrumental in a lot of discussions,
Yeah.
so just wanted
Yeah.
to
We
have a thank you note.
Appreciate that. Any other comments? Then I guess I'll have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Well, good night, and thank you for watching.
All right, thank you.